and especially Industry 4.0 manufacturing, I think women are becoming more and more part of this journey. And that's a transformation that we have seen. The third point I'd like to add is, yes, you're right, access to technology, access to data. And that is a big differentiator. So as a state, what we have now done is we have laid fiber network to home. This is BharatNet on steroids. So it's 15 Mbps of data, 250 channels and free telephony. All this for under $2. And we have done this to every house and on an Android TV box. So this opens up new opportunities to offer services to the citizens. So I think this is where the state can actually be a force multiplier and definitely integrate our citizens into this journey rather than leaving it just to the private sector to lead the Industry 4.0.
Thank you very much, Minister Lokesh. I think clearly the state of Andhra Pradesh has been a leader in many ways in making technology an integral part of its state policy. So I'll come back to you on some of the points after we have heard from other speakers in the interest of time. So I next turn to our Honorable Minister Iswaran from Singapore. Singapore is clearly one of the global success stories, one of the case studies of successful use technology for advancement of the country as a whole. What can India learn? What can we learn from the examples of Singapore?
Do I need to use this mic or I'm okay? All right. Well, thank you for the question. I think first there are two big trends or big phenomena that we have to deal with. Globalization, something that we're all familiar with, and the other is the evolution in terms of technology. Do I need to do? Yeah,
it's a little bit better.
So globalization on the one side and technology and the evolution of technology on the other. Industry 4.0, and if you talk about frontier technologies like AI and so on, they're all basically developments related to technology. And in both cases, the key challenge is that there will be winners and there will be losers. When you talk about globalization, those companies, those individuals who are able to adapt to a globalized economy are going to be the winners. Those who are not able to adapt will be the losers. I don't think it's preordained that if you're a big company, you'll be successful, and if you're a small company, you won't. But it does mean that there will be those who win and those who lose. And in a way, technology, whether it's Industry 4.0 and AI, is poses the same challenge. That you will have those who adapt and therefore are able to take advantage and benefit fully, and there will be those who won't. So I think from a government perspective, because I think your question was about the equitable element in this, and I think if governments want to address equity, then we have to, on the one hand, do we have a choice when it comes to globalization and technology? And from Singapore's perspective, the answer is no. You have to accept it, learn to adapt to it, and take advantage of it. Then the question is there any other thing that the government needs to do? And I think that is where governments need to invest. In tandem with any globalization effort and technology effort, governments need to invest in capability building within the population. In other words, investing in the training of the people to adapt to the new types of skills that are needed, and investing in the capabilities of the enterprises so that they can move into the digital realm and beyond. And so I think that's a key element here to try and mitigate the otherwise problematic divergence that you talked about. And I would add, just to echo Lokesh's point, it's not just the role of government, because I think enterprises, and I know we have some industrialists here, have to step up as well, because it means you need a new kind of compact as well with the workforce. Because it cannot just be that the enterprise optimizes for efficiency and leaves all the damage control to the government, because that's not a sustainable model.
Do I need to use this, or is my thing fine with the... Can you hear me if I speak without that? Yeah? Okay, good. So I'll leave it for the two ministers out here. So, I think you see some similarities in the approaches, but clearly the government leadership is very critical, the partnership is very critical. We will come back and explore them in more detail. In Singapore, some of you probably know this, I've heard about this. I think you're one of the first nations to have a nationwide sort of individual budget for lifelong learning, right? You just set that up. Interested to hear later how that is going. So let me turn now to a more perhaps India-specific focus. And at a general level, I turn to Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, who in his role as the DG of Indian Industry Confederation, how do you see, Chandrajit, the Indian industry reacting, partnering with the government to reduce inequality, leverage technology all at the same time?
Thanks, Shomitra. I just wanted to take up on one point that Minister Lokesh pointed out, and he mentioned about the workforce, and he talked about the relevance of workforce, the importance of workforce, and he also talked about women in the workforce. And one of the things that I've been picking up in this Davos is this entire focus of how industry across the world reacting to women's rights, so to say, and workforce engagement, and that cannot be completely ignored by any corporate at all. And again, in Davos, I just wanted to pick up another point which came up in various sessions across Davos this year, and I was making some notes. By 2030, as was pointed out in one of the sessions, AI would be $13 trillion of the global GDP by 2030. And very, very interestingly, another point which I was noting was the challenges of health and universal health, that is. And again, one of the things that we do look forward as to how do we really make this inclusive, NCD dialogues or precision medicine. So AI would be really in the forefront of all of this. And there will be 11 billion people in the world by 2050, and by 2030, dying would be optional. So that's all picked up from this Davos, by the way. So having said that, and coming back to the more and these touches India very, very strongly, so to say. And having said that, I just wanted to look at the opportunities that India has today, and we talked about partnerships, and partnerships I think will be extremely important. The partnership between government and industry, the partnership between the center and the state, and I'm so glad to see the leadership of this being taken by a leading state of the country, and there are other states. Madhya Pradesh is also present over here. So there will be extremely relevant policy ecosystem which the states would have to dovetail to, and which should comply with whatever the larger ecosystem of at the central level that will come up. And to this, again, you talked about human, and I really want to focus on industry collaboration with academia, industry collaboration with institutes, to see how we take advantage of the highest number of graduates that India produces, something around 80 million, which is across the world the highest. And also the second, or rather, in fact, we compete very closely to China with regards to the number of STEM graduates that we produce. So we have these to our advantage, but how do we use this advantage to really get industry collaborate to see that what Indian industry today needs when we talk about Industry 4.0 is really made available in the pipeline, so that the entire issue that we talk about jobs which will come up. And India is going to be, and my last point is, India is going to be one country where Industry 2.0, Industry 3.0, and Industry 4.0 will go along together. It's not just, it's Industry 4.0 and you chuck Industry 2.0 and Industry 3.0. So there has to be a sort of a thread which will have to run across. Today, other economies of the world have even moved ahead. And as you said, after Industry 4.0, you look at the AI, so to say, there is a lot of fuzziness between manufacturing and services. So jobs will come, may not be hardcore manufacturing. And as we say, modern manufacturing will be, and modern factory will be such where there will be one man and one dog. The man's job will be to give the dog the food, and the dog's job would be to keep the man away from the machine. So that's the challenge that we will face. And for that, the jobs will actually come, may not be from that hardcore traditional manufacturing that we talk about. And as the fuzziness increases, there will be offsets in the services side. So that's what I think the challenge of industry will be, to understand and stitch all of this together and work with all the other stakeholders concerned.
Okay. I like the dog and the man example, or dog and woman example. I think that's a wonderful one. But I'll come back to you later, CB, for are there specific examples that you can identify that are already happening in India on this front? So just think about that. I'll come back to you. But now let's get the viewpoints of some industry leaders. We have two industry leaders from India, and I'd like to get their viewpoint on how they see themselves trying to address this question of equity, both inside and also in the society in which they operate. Mr. Mittal, perhaps you want to begin first in your role as also the president of CII.